Dear students, this is a revision for the microscopic slide for second year, modules 205, 206, and 207. If we have a section, large rounded structure with lumen, okay? If I have something like the esophagus, if I cut this section, transverse section, it will appear rounded structure with lumen. How to identify this section? Look at the lumen. The lumen is the mucosa. According to the lining epithelium, if the epithelium is non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium, it is one of two, esophagus and vagina. How do I know the non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium? Wavy basement membrane. The first layer of nuclei is oval, then rounded, then the most superficial are flat. Okay, when you see this epithelium, it is either esophagus duct or vagina. The esophagus cat is cancelled. Okay, how do I know this is esophagus duct or vagina? Look at the submucosa. If there's no submucosa, it is vagina. If there is the submucosa, it's esophagus duct, and in the submucosa there is mucous gland. If the epithelium is transitional, it is urinary bladder. How do I know the transitional epithelium? Non-clear, non-wavy basement membrane, and all the nuclei are rounded. All the nuclei are rounded. The most superficial cells appears as dome-shaped. It is urinary bladder. Again, non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium, from where I know, clear, wavy basement membrane, many layers of nuclei, different shape, first oval, then rounded, then flat. So it is either esophagus duct or vagina. If I have submucosa and the submucosa contain mucous gland, it is esophagus duct. This is the epithelium. This is the cutaneous corium, muscularis mucosa, then the submucosa, and this is the musculosa. I don't have submucosa, epithelium, connective tissue corium, smooth muscle, then the adventitia, so it is vagina. This is a photo, very nice photo to discriminate and see the difference between the stratified squamous and the transitional epithelium. First, look at the basement membrane. Here it is clear, wavy. Here it is non-clear, non-wavy. Look at the epithelium first. It is oval, then rounded, then flat. Here all of them are rounded. Look to the most superficial cell appear dome-shaped. Urinary bladder, non-clear, non-wavy basement membrane and transitional epithelium. Mucosa, the musculosa, inner, outer, longitudinal and middle circular. If I see in the lumen villi and crypt, you're going to ask me how to differentiate between the villi and the crypt. The villi is finger-like projection. The villi is finger-like projection, while the crypt is simple tubular gland that you can see connective tissue corium in between them, while the villi, there is a space between them, as if you are putting your hand in front of you, your fingers, there is spaces between your fingers, which is the lumen. This is the villi and this is the crypt. If I can see villi and crypt, so it is either duodenum or ileum. Okay, how do I know the duodenum? Between the villi and crypts and the muscle layer, there is glands, mucus secreting, known as Brunner's gland. If we have on one side patches of lymph follicle, it is Peyer's patches, so it is ileum. If I'm having crypts only and the crypts are wide and deep and full of goblet cell, we are talking about large intestine. Plus minus, you can see tinea coli, appendices epiploidy, solitary lymph follicle in the lamina propria. And so the most important issue, crypts wide and deep filled with goblet cells. Again, these are the villi and these are the crypts. Between the villi there is space while the crypts between them connective tissue. On one side at the submucosa there is Peyer's patches, so it is ileum. Here are the villi and these are the crypts between the mucosa and the muscle layer. There is glands which are the Brunner's gland, which is usually the duodenum. In the section of the duodenum, you can see the pancreas. You can see the pancreas. It is one of the compound structures. They are anatomically related. If we have crypts only, we are talking about the large intestine. These are the crypts. Here, dear students, okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is a wide, deep crypt, cut LS, and this TS section. Wide, deep crypt filled with goblet cells, large intestine. Okay, the uterus, one of the large round structure with lumen. First, the lumen is so narrow. Lined with single layer of epithelium, which is simple columnar partially ciliated. In the mucosa or the endometrium, these are the endometrial glands. In the muscle layer, we have the middle layer called strata vascular, containing blood vessels. You cannot see here the stratum vascular. If I have small rounded structure with lumen, I should see the lumen, the lining epithelium, and the musculosa. Here is the ureter. First, I'm going to see the lumen. The lumen is cross or star-shaped due to the presence of longitudinal folds. The lining epithelium is transitional epithelium, stratified epithelium, all of them rounded nuclei. The most superficial are dome-shaped, and the muscle is intermediate thickness. Here is the fallopian tube. The lumen is highly folded. And the lining epithelium one layer, which is simple columnar partially ciliated, and the muscle is small. The musculosa is small. Here is the vast difference inside a component of the spermatic cord. The lumen is less folded, lined by not more than 2 layers of nuclei, and which is the pseudostratified columnar. And here is the musculosa, very thick musculosa. It is the thickest musculosa. The spermatic cords formed of the vast difference, pampiniform plexus of veins, testicular artery and vein, and cremasteric muscle. If we have structured covered by skin, okay, this is a thin skin. This is the epidermis and this is the dermis. Downward growth of the epidermis inside the dermis formed what's so-called the hair follicle. We have 4 structures covered with skin in the batachou: the lip, the eyelid, the mammary gland, and the penis. The 2 slides that you can mistake the lip and the eyelid. Why? One surface is skin, the other is mucous membrane. Near the mucous membrane there is glands, and between them there is a muscle. The same description, the eyelid and the lip are the same. How to differentiate between them? Look please at the zone between the skin and the mucous membrane. Here is the red margin or the lip margin, in which you can see no hair follicle and deep dermal papillae. You have no hair follicle, sebaceous, or sweat gland. Here is the eyelid, skin, mucous membrane, which is the palpebral conjunctiva. Here is the skeletal muscle. Here is the glands, which is the meibomian gland. How could I differentiate? Look at the zone between the skin and the mucous membrane. Here you can see the hair follicles, which are the eyelashes. Here is the mammary gland, this is the skin, and here are the acini filled with milk. Acini filled with milk. In the microscopic slides, there is no penis. The penis only in the data show slides. If I'm having muscular structure like this, it is tongue, which is covered by the dorsal surface, covered with papillae. Most of them filiform papillae and few fungiform papillae. One side papilla, the other side mucous membrane. Between the muscle and near the mucous membrane there are glands, which are the lingual glands. Glandular structure. Here we have exocrine and endocrine. The exocrine is formed of acini and duct. Here is the prostate. How could I know the prostate? Here is the prostatic urethra. Okay, prostatic urethra, which is lined by transitional epithelium. Here are the acini. You can see that the acini present in three zones: small, intermediate, and large acini in the mucosal, submucosal, and the peripheral region. Here is the fibromuscular septa, alternating rose, light rose, and dark pink fibromuscular trabeculae or septa. Here is the pituitary. It is a very easy slide. Here is the pars distalis, and here is the pars nervosa. Here is the pars intermedia, and here is the cleft. It is an easy slide. Here is the suprarenal gland. The suprarenal glands form of outer cortex and inner medulla. Outer cortex and inner medulla. You can see all the section under the microscope. The outer cortex is acidophilic, while the inner medulla is basophilic. Okay, here you can see it's formed of zones under the capsule: zona glomerulosa, zona fasciculata, zona reticularis, then the medulla. Then after the medulla, zona reticularis, fasciculata, glomerulosa, then the capsule. Here you can see the spongocyte, which appears as a sponge-like because it contains many lipid droplets. Thyroid and parathyroid. Here the thyroid containing the thyroid follicle, which lined with simple cubical epithelium containing the colloid, and here is the parathyroid gland. Thyroid and parathyroid gland. Testis and epididymis. The testis is formed of seminiferous tubule, which contains the spermatogenic epithelium, which is formed of spermatogenic cell and Sertoli cell, while the epididymis is lined by pseudostratified columnar ciliated with long stereocilia, and the lumen contain many sperms, site for storage of these sperms. The ovary is formed of outer cortex and inner medulla. The outer cortex and inner medulla. The outer cortex containing different ovarian follicles, while the inner medulla containing blood vessels. Here is the outer cortex. You can see different ovarian follicle, okay, different in maturation. This is a secondary follicle, okay. Liver and gallbladder. Liver and gallbladder. This is the central vein radiating from each hepatocyte. I cannot see the classic hepatic lobule because the trabeculae is indistinct in normal liver tissue. Okay, what you can see here is the gallbladder. It is a highly folded organ, a highly folded mucosa lined with simple columnar epithelium. I cannot distinguish well between the parotid and the pancreas, doctor. Why? Because both of them are serous acini. How could I differentiate between the parotid and the pancreas? Please look at the trabeculae, which appears pink. It is thicker in the parotid and you can see fat cells in it, while in the pancreas are very thin. The acini of the parotid is usually appears basophilic, while the pancreas has a basal basophilia and apical acidophilia, which is well evident. In the parotid, there is apical acidophilic zymogen granules, but the pancreas, it is very evident. Basal basophilia, apical acidophilia. Inside the lobule, you can see intralobular ducts in the parotid, while in the pancreas, no. Islets of Langerhans present in the pancreas and not present in the parotid. Look, dear student, guess what it is? I can see the acini, basal basophilia, apical acidophilia. This is the stroma. The white thing here is artifact, the stroma, which is minimal. And here is the islets of Langerhans, and I cannot see circles of intralobular ducts. Again, this is the pancreas, basal basophilia, apical acidophilia. The parotid, as you can see here, is the trabeculae. It is very large. Okay. The acini is basophilic, and I have many intralobular ducts which appears at the ring inside as rings inside the lobule. The submandibular gland of dog is formed of mucus acini. As you see here, the mucus acini is large, lined with cuboidal cell with flat nuclei, with clear cell boundary, and the cytoplasm appears vacuolated because it secretes mucus. The kidney is a kidney-shaped structure. The kidney is a kidney-shaped structure. It appears like this under the microscope. When you see the cortex, you can see the Malpighian renal corpuscle. The Malpighian renal corpuscle. Kidney. If we have strips, we have two types of slides only, the fundus and the pylorus. How could I differentiate between the fundus and the pylorus? Number one, the fundus is folded mucosa, the pylorus not. Number two, the mucosa is dark in the fundus, paler in the pylorus. Here is the pit. Dear students, here is the pit. Here is the pit. The pit to the gland ratio 1 to 3 or 1 to 4, while the pit in the pylorus is 1 to 1 and wide and deep. Okay. The muscle layer, inner circular layer in the pylorus is as very thick as it forms the pyloric sphincter. You can see here that the fundus gland appear colorful because it contains different cells as peptic, which appears basophilic, parietal, which appears acidophilic, and mucus secreting appears pale basophilic. While the pylorus, most of the cells are mucus secreting, which appears pale. Again, this is the fundus. The pit is narrow. The pit to the gland ratio 1 to 3 or 1 to 4, and the cells are colorful. Here is the pit wide and deep. The pit to the gland ratio 1 to 1, and you see the cells are mostly pale basophilic as they are mucus secreting. Compound structures. What do I mean by compound structures? I can see more than one component inside. I can see more than one structure under the microscope. All of them are anatomically related, as liver and gallbladder. Here is the duodenum and pancreas, testis, and the epididymis. The testis appears like this, and the epididymis appears like this. Here is the thyroid. Here is the thyroid, and this is the parathyroid. Fixed slides. Here we have the test of the large intestine. The crypt appears wide and deep. Between them there is connective tissue corium and it is filled with goblet cells. What do I mean by fixed slides? Under the microscope, the slide is fixed. You cannot move it and it's present at a higher magnification. Here is the classic hepatic lobule. This is a central vein and this is the trabeculae and these are the hepatocytes. Serous acini, which appears small in diameter, basophilic, the nucleus is rounded. The mucus acini is large. Clear cell boundary appears vacuolated due to the mucus secretion, and these are the flat nuclei, which appears peripheral and flat. Here are the Purkinje cells of the cerebellum. Appears pyriform and it's present as one layer between the granular cell layer and the molecular layer, and their dendrites extend to the molecular layer. Here is the cornea formed of epithelium, membrane, and then connective tissue, which is the substantia propria. This is the non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium, Bowman's membrane, substantia propria, Descemet's membrane, then the endothelium. This is the retina. This is the sclera. This is the choroid, pigmented epithelium, rods and cones, outer nuclear, outer reticular or plexiform, inner nuclear, inner plexiform, ganglion cell, then the optic nerve fiber. Here is the organ of Corti. Here is the cochlear duct. Here is scala, vestibuli, scala, tympani, basilar membrane, tectorial membrane, stria, vascularis. Okay, here is the inner and here is the outer, from where I know the three hair cells. Inner, outer, pillar, outer, phalangeal, outer hair cell, inner pillar, inner phalangeal, inner hair cell. Organ of Corti. This is the small microscope for the CNS slides. We have two, which are the cerebrum, which you can see here is formed of sulci and gyri. The cerebrum, the cerebellum, you can see it's formed of folia, highly folded like this. About the nervous tissue, we have a nerve trunk stained with hematoxylin and eosin. This is the bundle, and this is another bundle. Between the bundles there is perineurium, axon surrounded with unstained myelin and Schwann cell. To demonstrate the myelin, you should stain it with osmic acid, appears as black ring. This is bundle, another bundle, another bundle. Okay, the rings are the myelin sheath. Stained by osmic acid, you should say the stain. This is ganglia, formed of nerve cells arranged in groups or in rows. The cells are unipolar, from where you know the boundary is regular. The cells are large, of different size. Okay, the capsule is thick. So again, thick capsule, the cell rounded edge. Because it is unipolar, the unipolar, dear students, appears like this. A cell, okay, one process which divide, one act as an axon and other act as a dendrite. So the outline of the perikaryon appears smooth like this. They are large, of different sizes, arranged in groups or in rows, and thick capsule. This is spinal ganglia. This is a spinal ganglia stained by silver to demonstrate the Golgi apparatus. These cells, okay, they are large, of different sizes, okay, arranged in groups or in rows. You should say stained by silver. The last slide is the sympathetic ganglia. These cells are small and uniform in size and scattered. Small, uniform, and scattered. Thank you, dear students, and good luck. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.